Hi! Today I'm going to show you how to make a beautiful Christmas gift bag. We're going to make it with the gift bag punch board and then decorate it with the Be Jolly by Golly stamp set. I'm so glad you're joining me today. Welcome to StampingSmiles.com. I'm Shelley Godby, the owner and CEO of Stamping Smiles, and for 15 years I've been teaching others how to create their own hand-stamped smiles. So we're going to be pairing the Be Jolly by Golly stamp set with the Starlight Thinlits dies. Here's a closer view of the Be Jolly by Golly stamp set from the 2016 Stampin' Up! Holiday Catalog. You know, I was taken with this stamp set right away. My eye first went to the beautiful font of the Peace on Earth in the church, but then as you start looking at the rest of the stamps in here, you realize what a great collection it is and a lot of versatility. And then look, the star, it's the same shape as the stars from the Starlight Thinlits dies. I love how Stampin' Up! Will have oftentimes that the stamp sets and dies and punches will coordinate with other products, making them all that much more versatile. So we're going to use both of these for our gift bag. So we're going to make our own gift bag, and what I have here is the gift bag punch board. Alright, and so it tells you the width of your paper for small, medium, and large, and I wanted a large bag, so I needed 12-inch paper. So I chose Real Red in 12-inch because we can get an individual package of that in the 2016 Stampin' Up! Holiday Catalog. So in case you wanted to make a whole bunch of one or several, I wanted you to be able to get a full package, have that ability. Okay, and so I cut this to 7.5 by 12, but I'll have all the measurements underneath the video. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and turn it like this. We're going to take out the little scoring tool. This is quite easy to make once you know how to do it. So that's exactly what we're going to do right now. So the directions tell us, just this says start line right here, so we're putting it up to the start line. And I'm going to do a little bit out of order because it tells me to punch last, but I have a tendency to forget to punch. So I start with the punching. And then, well, as my playground friends know, sometimes I forget and have to go back. But that's the beauty of it. We can always go back. So it tells us to do a horizontal line, and this tells us right here, horizontal lines. So we're going to draw this across. And then we're going to go to the size we want. We know we're doing a large bag. So we're going to find that groove. And I found I don't need to press really hard. I was pressing so hard I was breaking through the cardstock. Don't need to be that vigorous. Okay, so we just created that score line. We're now going to use that. And look, see this? Here's a guide. We've got that guide that we're following. And so I'm moving over that score line we just did. And this is all in the directions. All of it's right there. But I think it's easier to watch. Okay, so we're lining up that with this score line. And we're going to start with punching. Well, maybe. There we go. Okay, so now this time we're creating the side. So we need to do the horizontal. Always need to do the horizontal. We've got, and they're calling this the triangle. And it does, it creates a triangle. So everything is marked for you. And then we need to do a side. So crease down there. And side 2. Okay, and we punch, so we've done all that. So now we're going with the last score line, and again, lining up over here. You with me? See, so easy. Okay, let's go ahead and punch. Well, what in the world? There we go. Just need to. Okay, so we're ignoring these two right now. We're going back to like we did at the beginning, because we're making the front and the back of it. So we're going to the large. There we go. Oh, and the horizontal, if I didn't do that. There we go. So again, lining up with that last score line. I'm making that look harder than it is. There we go. It's just getting it right. You know what? I'm sitting there trying to press just there for some reason. The whole thing needs to go down. I don't know why I'm trying to concentrate in that little area. Okay, so again, the triangle, horizontal line, side, and side 2. So let's go ahead and take that last score line one more time. And let's press the whole thing. Look how easy it is when you press the whole thing. There we go. And so now we've created our box. We're not quite done with this, but I want to use this, our tool, to go ahead and score along our lines, fold along our score lines, I mean. This is the bottom of the box, not the top. So let's just go ahead and fold along all of these lines and give it a nice crisp fold, and everything then just goes together so much easier with a good crisp fold. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and fold this one just so I can see where it's at, because we're going to be doing a little bit of trimming. Okay, so this piece is going to get the adhesive. You know, you need something to hook the box together. So I'm going to go along all these main ones. I'll show you what we're going to do with those others. That, remember it said side. Okay, really quite an easy and handy tool. That the gift bag punch board. Okay, so this is the side. You know how those go in. So let's just go ahead and by hand, because we know we've got that little triangle. Look at how, isn't that professional looking? And let's do that with this too. Okay, I'm going to show you, now that we have that, look how this just folds together so easily. Just going to fold. Look at that. Isn't that just awesome? Okay, so we've got a little bit more to do. The directions tell us, because I don't know if you saw that, when I fold that together, it was kind of bulky there. So all we're going to do is take our paper snips and trim this at an angle. Okay, we're going to trim that one off, and this too. So I did my scoring first so I could see where I wanted to trim. Now we won't have that bulk when we go to do it. So you just saw, so we can have the gift bag like it is, or we can put holes in it so we can have a handle. And that is also with this. We just turn it around the other way. And then on this side we also have a guide, and we're absolutely going to use that. So we're going to start with the edge of our cardstock lined up with the guide. All right, now remember, let's press down the whole thing. Let me hang on to this. There we go. Look how easy it punches when you do what you're supposed to. Okay, so line up with this next crease. We're going to put it right in the center, right on the line. And so then we'll get a hole on both sides. Now we're skipping this one, the one that goes in. Skip that one. Let's go to the next one. Press on the whole thing. There we go. That's over here. Okay, so because that one goes in, we're skipping it, but we're going to come over here and line up at that last line. There we go. And so now we've got the holes in our bag so we can have a handle. So let's go ahead next and do our die cutting, so then we can do all the decorating. So I've got my Big Shot die cutting machine, and we're going to build what's called a sandwich so we can die cut with the Starlight Thinlits dies. So I've got the Big Shot platform, and because I'm using a thin metal die, I need the thin die adapter. Okay, and so the next part of our sandwich, I have a cutting pad. And I'm using Real Red Cardstock to coordinate with our Real Red Cardstock gift bag. And then we're going to start with this die, okay, and just put that on the center. I don't have to be precise, I just have to keep it on the cardstock to get a full star. And then the rest of our sandwich is another cutting pad. And all four of those pieces come with the purchase of a Big Shot. So we'll just go ahead and crank this through. This is so much better than cutting by hand. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful. And so then our sandwich is going to change just a little bit because we're going to do the intricate die. We're going to die cut a silver foil sheet with the beautiful intricate star die. So our sandwich is changing a little bit. We still have the Big Shot platform, and because it's a thin metal die, we need the thin die adapter. But instead of a cutting pad, instead we're going to use the precision base plate. This is an additional purchase, but when you're doing the intricate dies, I just can't recommend it highly enough. So this is going to replace the bottom cutting pad. Turn it over. This is the cutting side, the black. Okay, and so then we have our silver foil sheet. Now, look, this is going to be die cut and go right on top of here, all that intricate, so a lot of holes are going to be in there. So we could do glue, but instead we're going to use a Sizzix sheet. Stampin' Up! Used to carry these and just love them because it turns it into a sticker and makes it just so much easier. So this is, let's just peel that off and then press this to it, okay, my silver foil sheet. We're going to leave that on. So let's press it on there. All right, so now, whoops, there's adhesive. Let's take our die and the raised edge, that's the cutting edge. Let's put that face down. Perfect. And then the rest of our sandwich is another cutting pad. Let's go ahead and crank this through. And then I go ahead and I just go ahead and put it reverse. So we're putting down 3,000 pounds of pressure, and we do it a second time, and with that thin die adapter, it just cuts through it so beautifully. Look at that. So my die's still in the paper, so I'm going to show you a great tool for getting out all those little bits and pieces. I have here my Big Shot die brush, and it comes with the foam mat. And we're just going to run it over it. Look at that, it's just popping off already. Okay, there we go. And aha! So it comes off the die real easily, and we could run it over it to get out the rest of that, but you know, I do have that Big Shot sheet on the back. So look, instead of poking all those out first, I could do all of that, but quite a few are going to come out as I pull, look at that, as I pull off the Big Shot adhesive sheet. There we go. And so for what's left, I can pretty much just take out by hand or with my paper piercing tool, just fall right out. There we go. Let's get all of that off. Isn't this just gorgeous? Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Love it. Okay, here we go. Got one hung up right there. Haha, got it. Okay, beautiful. So let me set this aside, clean up my area. And so now I don't have to mess with putting adhesive all over it because I already have it. So let's line this up. So this is going to be our gift tag. I think I've said that. In case I didn't, there we go. Beautiful, isn't it? Oh my gracious, and so easy with the Big Shot, the Sizzix adhesive sheet. We've made our tag. Okay, so what, you know, while we have this in our hand, let's just go ahead and finish it. I have here the 1/16 inch handheld circle punch, and we'll just go right through here. So we are going to need to tie that onto our bag and create our hole for our baker's twine we'll use in just a bit. I forgot to add that under the video, I'll have a link to where you can order some Sizzix adhesive sheets. Okay, so now we get to decorate the gift bag. And so look, this is how I decide which side I want to decorate. You could do both, but I'm going to just do one. See this seam right here? That wouldn't be my favorite to be to the front, so I want to decorate this side. Okay, and we're going to emboss. And so I have here my Embossing Buddy. And this is fantastic because, you know, embossing powder sticks to what's wet. Well, we want it to be just the ink and not the oil in our fingerprints or anything else. So I'm just rubbing this all over, and that's going to eliminate a lot of that. And so we're going to use the solid stars. Love this. Okay, and so we need a permanent ink. I'm going to use the VersaMark. This is a watermark stamp pad. It makes the cardstock, the stamped image, a shade or two darker than the cardstock, but great for embossing. It's going to stay wet for a long time, and it's a permanent ink. There we go. So we got that good and inked up. So we're going to step up here, and I'm pretty much going between these holes, right about there. That's my guide. Okay, so let's just press everywhere. Fantastic. You know, whenever I have a solid stamp, I like to just make sure I press everywhere. Okay, and so we're going to step down here and go down and do the bottom. And I can use that scored line at the bottom for my guide. And of course, now that we've scored those so well, we should be able to get it pretty decently, you know, centered between them, especially since we can see between the stamps, right? I mean, through the stamps. Okay, so just pressing everywhere. Now, I do want to put a greeting in the center, but I'm going to sprinkle on the embossing powder first so I can see better to be able to get it centered. So let's go ahead and do that. I have here some silver Stampin' Emboss powder and just a paper plate to catch it. So let's sprinkle on some of our embossing powder. Nice. We can let it, here we go. Tap that off. Oh, I love this part when it clings to the stamped image. Oh, love it, love it, love it. All right. Okay, I didn't get all of it, so we just add a little bit more. No big deal. So forgiving. Okay, so I could emboss it right now. We could melt it, but I'm not going to yet. Let's just set this aside for a moment. And I'm going to use that beautiful Piece on Earth from the Be Jolly by Golly stamp set. Let's go ahead and ink it up again with VersaMark ink. Get that good and inked up. Okay, so now, you know, I can see the powder, just so I could do all the embossing at one time. Let's press that. Okay, let's press everywhere. Looking good. Yep, okay, we'll find out for sure when I sprinkle on the powder, so let's bring that back. Sprinkle on a little bit more. Let's see what we have. Oh, okay, missed the E. Just add a little bit more, no big deal. And I'm just tapping that off, and look at that. I just don't see it all over the place. That is fantastic. So now we get to melt it. This is the fun part. Oh my goodness. So I have here the heat tool. The first setting is for drying the ink, but we want to put it on the second. That's the first. The second is for melting the embossing powder. Okay. Whoops, hold on. I just saw a little something, and I have a paintbrush here just in case. I see in the center, and that Embossing Buddy did a fantastic job. I see just a little drop right there. Okay. And tapping on the cardstock really helps too. That caught my eye in the light. I don't see any more. Okay. Okay. Now let's try it again with our heat tool. The second setting. And then I just hold it until I see it turn. It'll be very obvious because right now it looks, well, a powdery pewter, but it's going to turn it, oh, look at that. Shiny silver. Gorgeous. Love this. You know, embossing just never gets tiresome. One day somebody asked me, I was a very, very new demonstrator, and she holds up the bottle of embossing powder. She says, "What is this?" And I said, "Well, it's embossing powder." She says, "No, no. How does it work?" You know, she wanted to know the chemical makeup. Like, it's magic. That's all that mattered to me, is that it worked and the results are beautiful. Here we go. Oh, so pretty. Okay, and so we're going to do a little bit more decorating with this too. Before we put our box together, let's add some basic rhinestone jewels. This is really going to dress it up. Okay, so we're going to use a variety of sizes. I like to take my paper piercing tool instead of trying to use my fingernails and trying to get up and under. Okay, oh, like that. Let's not press hard so we can just see what we think as we move things around. Whoops, that one didn't come with me, did it? All right, let's try again. All right. Oh, very pretty. Now our tag is going to hang over here, so we don't need to put any over there and just cover it up. Okay, so let's get a nice big one in there. These do come in 3 different sizes. Oh, so pretty. Really like this touch. This was something I thought about later. I thought, ooh. Okay. Let's get some over in here. That worked nice. Very nice. Okay. Let's get another little one. And pretty. Oh, there was one on my hand. All right. Well, while we got it, let's just pick it up and use it. Very pretty. I think I'd like one right here, and I think it won't show, you know, with the tag. So let's go for a medium one. I mean, I think it'll show even though we have the tag hanging there. Isn't that pretty? Okay, you know what? What's one more? They're just so doggone pretty. Let's come up over here. I think that'll make it look, or even in between. Let's see what we think. Okay, so I want to do this before I put the bag together so I could press down on them. You know what? I'm thinking one more. You know, it's Christmas. You can be all kinds of glitzy at Christmas. How about that? that's feeling balanced. Well, I don't know where that other one came from. I guess I was good and I picked up 2. All right, we'll put him back. All right, so there we go. So now for the putting together, let's press on all of them. Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to use the tear and tape adhesive, and we don't need a whole lot of it. So we have to think about how this is going to go together. And so we want the adhesive, see right here? So we want this to lay down really nice. So let's put it close right up to that score line. Okay, let's put it up to that. Good strong adhesive, but so easy to work with because you just go ahead and tear it. Okay, and so along the bottom, we only need it on one. Because these 2 are going to fold in. That'll lay there, so we just need it on one of them. And so how to remember it, let's do it on the side that's decorated. If you don't have any tear and tape adhesive yet and you put anything together like this, boy, you really want some. Okay, and so I think we're good there. You know, that little bit that's hanging over, I just don't want it hanging over, so I'm going to take my paper snips and just trim it off. Okay, same with on this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and peel it off on the long edge, and we're going to line these 2 up. Maybe easier at the top to see what we're doing because we know, there we go. Make sure it's lined up along the edge right here before we press. Oh, everything's looking really nice. Okay, so put your hand in there because you really want a good hold. Fantastic. I hadn't taken this one off yet because it would have been sticking together when I was trying to do the side. So now we'll go ahead and take that off. Get that backing piece off. Okay, so the 2 little ones in. Line that up nice and square. And there we go. Let's put our hand in there so we have something to press against. Fantastic. So now we have the gift bag. So next is the handle. To make the handles, you feed ribbon through all the holes. So I'm using the 1/8 inch silver ribbon. And what I did is I started at the back and started from the inside out. Okay, left a little tail here. And so now I just need to go through this last hole. Here we go. Let's bring our 2 ends together. Isn't this silver ribbon is so pretty, keeping everything coordinated. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and tie a knot. All right, there we go. So we've got our knot. And then look, we did that on purpose to keep it to the inside. Oh, so cool. So we'll just trim off those tails. I just leave it longer so it's easier to work with, but we can just trim it off. And so with that on the inside, that's to the back. Look how pretty our bag is. And so we've got a couple finishing touches, and one of them is adding our beautiful, beautiful ornament that so coordinates. And so what I have here is from the Baker's Twine Trio Pack from the Occasions catalog. Now this is cherry cobbler, but for the little bit that we're using, it just didn't, it worked out just fine. It didn't make any difference. So remember we punched a hole in here earlier. Whoops. Okay. There we go. Getting it wet always helps, right? Okay, and so let's go ahead and feed it through this hole. This was my best bet against the real red cardstock. White was just really obvious. And we just really want to blend in. And let's just leave it plenty long so we have enough to work with. Baker's Twine is so inexpensive, and it's just hardly anything more miserable than trying to, than just not leaving yourself enough to work with and fighting it. Okay, so we'll go ahead, and again we'll make another knot like we just did. Because I like to be conservative with my materials, but then I spend so much time fighting it. It's like, okay, that's just silly. Let's just leave it plenty long. Okay, I want this cinched up nice and tight. I don't want my star hanging down really far. Let me grab grab my paper piercing tool. Here we go. There we go. So look. And we can trim those off too, the excess. So we're not making a statement with our tag, and we can rotate it around so that's inside. Okay, very pretty. But we just have one more thing to do with this, and every good gift bag has some tissue paper, right? So in case you don't know this, let me show you a trick. So I have my tissue paper here. I'm going to grab the center of it. Let me do that over here. Grab the center, and there we go. Look. Then you get the different corners that come up and look, oh, so pretty. Put that right down in here. Put those up. There we go. And we've got handles and a gift tag and one very special Christmas gift bag. If you'd like to make my Christmas gift bag too, all the supplies are listed under the video and available to order in my online store, www.shopwithshelly.com. I'm Shelly Godby, teaching you how to create hand stamped smiles. Thanks for watching.